Welcome to World Power Circle, where we decode the moves the mainstream never shows you. Right now, a war is unfolding between Israel, the United States, and Iran, and the people closest to it are already looking for the exit. Israeli officials are quietly leaking to journalists, their own bases are taking direct hits, and their allies in the Gulf are furious. In just 10 days, this conflict has dragged in 20 nations and burned through $5.6 billion in weapons alone. And today, we're going to break down exactly what's happening, who's panicking, who's pulling strings, and what comes next. Stay with us through the end because the final piece of this puzzle is the one that almost nobody is talking about. Let's get into it. Here is something the headlines aren't screaming loudly enough. Senior Israeli officials are leaking their fears to journalists. David Ignatius of The Washington Post, a reporter deeply connected to intelligence circles, published their message. The message: Israel's bombing campaign is nearing its military goals, but the hardest questions remain completely unanswered. One senior Israeli official, speaking anonymously, raised the idea of off-ramps, ways to stop the war before it causes even deeper damage. The core concern: Israeli air defense radars have been damaged. The interceptor stockpiles are being drained at an alarming rate. Iran isn't just absorbing punches, it is punching back directly inside Israeli territory. Remember the 12-day war? It was actually Israel who pushed for that ceasefire for the exact same reasons surfacing right now. Israel's preferred strategy is what analysts call mow the lawn. Go in, destroy, destabilize. Then pause, then repeat years later. But here's the critical flaw in that plan: Iran appears to have learned its lesson from the last ceasefire. Stopping the war last time allowed Israel and the US to rearm and come back even harder. Iran will not make that mistake again. Israel and the US wanted regime change in Tehran, but there are zero signs of it. The Kurds refuse to get involved. No civil war is brewing. Now Israel finds itself bound to the United States, to Trump, in a war that has already expanded far beyond what they expected. Israeli soldiers are now fighting on Lebanese soil as well, facing Hezbollah, with the conflict spreading to a second front. More than anything, this is a munitions math problem. Defense readiness. The brutal reality of sustaining a long war. Reporting suggests that when Netanyahu visited Trump in December, the green light for war was given then and there. The peace negotiations that followed, analysts believe they were largely a delay tactic, buying time to move more U.S. firepower into the region. A second carrier strike group was moved in, and then, at the moment Iran had made its largest diplomatic concessions ever, the war began. Now let's talk about a man who has been engineering this conflict for decades, Senator Lindsey Graham, on Fox News. Graham declared he stands with Israel until his dying day and called Donald Trump Ronald Reagan. Plus, this is a sitting U.S. senator openly saying that Israel is his #1 priority above all else. Graham even stated he would return to South Carolina to personally convince residents to send their children to fight in the Middle East. But the most alarming moment came when Graham, without any official authority, offered Saudi Arabia a defense agreement on live television. He promised Saudi Arabia that if Iran attacked them, the United States would go to war on their behalf. He has no authority to make that promise. Even Fox News host Laura Ingraham pushed back, asking Ted Cruz if it was strange for Graham to be coordinating directly with Israeli intelligence. Cruz defended him, but Graham's influence over the direction of Trump's war policy cannot be overstated. He has been pushing for this moment for 20 years. Even Trump's own MAGA base is alarmed, urging the president to keep Graham off the air. But Graham keeps talking, and what he says reveals exactly who is driving this war. Now here's where the story gets even more explosive. America's Gulf allies, the countries it has protected for decades, are publicly distancing themselves. The United Arab Emirates officially declared it will not allow its airspace, territory, or waters to be used for any military action against Iran. The UAE is also furious that Israeli officials allegedly tried to blame a desalination plant attack on them, drawing Iranian targeting toward UAE soil. When the Pentagon posted images of U.S. missile batteries in the desert, Iran's foreign minister used those images to justify striking the hosts. A prominent UAE billionaire believed to be speaking with government approval publicly condemned the United States for dragging the region into war without consent. He questioned their alliances, warned of economic destruction, and said the Gulf states never agreed to be part of this conflict. Wealthy expats are already fleeing Dubai and Abu Dhabi. The brand these cities spent decades building as global hubs of safety and commerce is being shattered in real time. Even Saudi Arabia, historically one of Washington's most loyal partners, is running the numbers on whether U.S. protection is worth the cost of becoming a target. A Saudi analyst appeared on Al Jazeera and said plainly, "America is not protecting us. America is protecting Israel. That is their number one priority." Saudi Arabia has been begging to purchase more missile interceptors. The U.S. response, silence. Israel gets priority. The Gulf waits. The map tells the whole story. 20 countries are now directly or indirectly involved in this conflict. This is no longer a regional war, it is a global emergency. For Iran, victory doesn't require defeating the United States. Victory simply means surviving, keeping the current government intact against the full force of American and Israeli military power. But Iran's bigger aspiration is this: push the United States out of the Gulf entirely, and with the Gulf states now questioning their partnership with Washington. That goal is becoming less far-fetched by the day. Here is the story that should be dominating every headline but isn't. The United States is now pulling THAAD missile defense batteries from South Korea. THAAD systems on the Korean peninsula exist to defend South Korea from North Korean missiles. Removing them creates a dangerous gap in that defense. Patriot missile interceptors are also being pulled from bases across the entire Indo-Pacific region, all of them heading to the Middle East. In just the first 2 days of this war, the United States burned through $5.6 billion in munitions alone. That is roughly $2.8 billion per day. And that's only the weapons cost, not logistics, not personnel, not infrastructure. For comparison, at the peak of the Afghanistan war, keeping 100,000 troops in the field cost approximately $100 million per day. And here's the question every military analyst should be screaming: if America is burning through its missile stockpiles in the Middle East, what happens if China moves on Taiwan? The answer, right now, is that the U.S. would be forced to respond to a Pacific crisis with a depleted arsenal and stripped defenses in South Korea. This is what military experts mean by strategic overextension, fighting one war while hollowing out your readiness for the next. The real cost will never be fully known. The government will classify the true figures, but you can read the actions. Pulling weapons from South Korea after only 10 days tells you everything. And one final cost. Analysts warn this war may have given Iran every incentive to accelerate its nuclear program, the exact threat that was used to justify starting the war in the first place. When a country faces existential military assault, developing a nuclear deterrent isn't paranoia, it becomes rational. The logic of this war may have created the very monster it claimed to destroy. And none of this had to happen. That's the hardest part of all. Every decision that led here was made by choice, not necessity. Let's bring it all together. Israel is quietly signaling it wants an exit from this war, but is trapped by its own strategy and its alliance with Trump. The Gulf states, America's longtime allies, are pulling away, feeling exposed and unprotected while the U.S. prioritizes Israel above all. A small group of political operators led by figures like Lindsey Graham have spent decades engineering this moment, and now everyone is living with the consequences. The weapons crisis is real. It is accelerating. And it is exposing America's greatest strategic vulnerability at the worst possible time. The big question now, does this war end before it triggers something even larger? Or has that already become unavoidable? This is World Power Circle, and if this video gave you a clearer picture of what's really happening, drop a like right now. It takes 2 seconds and it helps us reach more people. Tell us in the comments, do you think Israel will push for a ceasefire, or does this war expand even further? We read every comment. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on notifications, because we're covering this conflict every single day as it develops. In our next video, we're going deep on Iran's response strategy, how they're fighting back, what weapons they're using, and what their endgame actually looks like. Stay informed, stay ahead. This is World Power Circle, and we'll see you in the next one.